What's up, guys? Welcome to the Aries Moto, home of the quick and easy, where nothing is quick, definitely not easy. Welcome. My name is JD Nevels, and this is 2012 Chevy Cruze. One of our customers brought in. There's a few complaints. One of the complaints is that there's no heat in a cabin. It would just randomly die apparently, and there's also a message that would be displayed from time to time that says AC off due to the high temperature. Engine temperature. So check engine is on, and I connected the OBD2 scanner, so I just want to see what the code is, and it's P00B7. There's 3 of them. One of them was permanent. So I had a couple friends, or I do have a couple friends who had Chevy Cruze, and they were having lots of problems and with the head gaskets and such. So I jumped on one of the Chevy boards just to see what it was, and one of the guys was actually really cool. Said engine coolant flow insufficient. Difference between the radiator coolant temperature and engine coolant temperature is too high. The possible culprits are low coolant, maybe thermostat, and there's also sensor, right? The sensor could be gone for temperature sensor. So I'm just gonna check those one by one, and also at the end we're gonna do 2 tests. We're gonna pressure test the system, and we're gonna also do the head gasket test just to make sure that there's no damage there. Alright, so as you can tell right here, as you can see, there's 0 coolant in overflow container, like 0. This is a younger person driving this car, and that kind of explains a few things, all the messages and overheat and everything. So we're gonna test everything anyways, just to make sure that we know what's wrong with the car. So the first thing first, the old man is gonna put some coolant inside. We're gonna start the car and just circulate the coolant, burp the air and everything out of the cooling system, so we know we can properly diagnose what's wrong with the car. And I know it says Honda coolant, but it's not. It's actually a GM coolant. We just had an empty bottle that we used. And as you can tell right here, there's a little bit of that cream. It's not too bad. It's winter here in Canada right now, so a lot of humidity. But once I pull up the dipstick, there's nothing inside. So that means that coolant was not wasn't mixed with the engine oil. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna start the car, and I'm gonna wait till the car warms up nicely, so we make sure that thermostat is opening and closing, so the whole system is circulating, and that would kind of fix and explain why there's no heat in the cabin, because the heater core, right, would not get any warm and hot coolant, so it wouldn't be able to fans to kick the blow in the hot air. And as you can tell, I tried to clear the codes, but one of them was permanent on. And as you can tell right here right now, the engine is spitting air out. It's kind of, old man is trying to see if the coolant is going into the heater core, just to make sure it's circling right. And I'm testing right now to see if there's any hot air coming into the cabin, and there was actually no hot air still coming into the cabin. As you can tell, the temperature was almost half, so the engine was warm. It's not the engine was not warm, but there was still no hot air. And the old man actually knew how to fix that problem, and he actually just got into the car, as you're gonna see in a second right now, and he started giving a gas. So he was revving up the engine, and as soon as he started revving up the engine, the warm air actually started coming, so he was starting blowing the hot air. So we know that that was because the coolant was low, way too low. There was missing approximately 2 liters of coolant was missing altogether. So old man is right now grabbing the hoses before and after the thermostat, just making sure that the one that after thermostat are cooler and the ones before are a little bit hotter. So that was all cool, everything's working. So the only thing remained to do right now was to go for a test, properly test the car and under the load, just to see if that AC off due to the high temperature is gonna come on again. So I'm just gonna go real quick and take it for a spin. Alright, so I'm back right now. Nothing happened, everything worked as it should. No temperature changes, everything worked beautiful. As you can tell, there's still a little bit low. I was low on coolant, which means the system was really low on the coolant. So we're just gonna add a little bit more of a coolant. So old man is measuring everything, making sure that all the temperature, everything works, which it does. And he's just gonna test it with the thermo reader. Infrared, sorry, that's not a thermo, that's an infrared scanner, temperature scanner reader. Okay, so the next thing, now that we know that everything works as it should, now we need to figure out where the coolant is going. So old man put a T-joint right here on a return line, and he put a pressure like 13. As you can see right now, it's less than 13, so the pressure is falling. It's losing pressure, so there's coolant leaking somewhere right now. Let me put the car in here. Old man is removing the little protective plastic shield, and we want to find where the leak is coming from. And as always, like, because this car has less than 100,000 kilometers, but it's cheap Chevy, so whenever you're losing a coolant, the first place old man is looking is always a water pump. And as you can tell, there's a little bit of oil, there's a lot of oil, but there's also a lot of coolant coming up. But usually after, when you put it under pressure, there's a little stream of coolant, so you can see exactly, or dripping of the coolant, so you can see exactly where it's coming from. But this case, we couldn't see it, so old man is just gonna boost up a little bit. It's gonna add to the pressure. He's gonna pump it up to the 15 pounds of pressure right now, as you can tell, and lift the car again. And now you can see a little bit of coolant coming down the wall. It's easier to see where the coolant is coming when the engine is cold, but right now the engine is warm, and still we saw it was water pump. So another thing we're gonna do right now, the last thing that we're gonna do right now, we know where the coolant is going, but just want to make sure, because it was a younger person driving the car, and he was driving the car without a coolant for quite a bit of time, so we just want to make sure that he didn't blow the head gasket. So this kit right here, you can buy it on Amazon, and this kind of awesome. I love it. It's simple premise. It's dark blue color, so you start up the engine and make sure it's warm, so you run it for a few minutes, and then if there's a leak, there's a certain gas that gets released into the coolant, and once you suck in with that little baster looking thing, you suck up the air and you can see the bubbles, and if there's a gas in that bubble in the air that's sucking in, it's gonna change the color from dark blue to like greenish color, right? So you know, if it's green, you have a blown head gasket. If it stays blue, that means it's actually not, and it's good. And if that everything went through, let's say you didn't have a leak, you don't have anything, everything was fine, then you would replace the sensor, right? But since we know there's a leak, we know there's head gasket is good, there's no point of changing that. And we did replace the water pump later on that engine, so the water pump was actually culprit.